Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending the morning with us.
He's here, he's coming.
Oh, we have one more panelist. So today we'll be talking about sports, entertainment, and of course this in the context of blockchain technology. My name is Bianca. I'm the developer advocate of Balancer and founder of DevRel Uni. And I have with me some very interesting panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. And I would like to start by giving them the chance to introduce themselves. Teodora, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So my name is Teodora. I'm a VP of Business Development and Ecosystem Partnerships at Dapper Labs. I started at Dapper Labs about 6 months ago, looking after football partnerships, and I've transitioned recently my role into building out sort of our ecosystem partnerships and just any new business development we do at the company. Before Dapper Labs, I was at Google for 12 years. And at Google, I sat across many content companies, sports rights holders, gaming companies, broadcasters, across the board. And I could see how the Web 2 kind of ecosystem and environment just really was not providing meaningful commercial opportunities for content IPs. And that's a huge reason of why I wanted to start the Web3 journey with Dapper Labs, is because the realization that there's something in Web 2 that is just not working the way it should be, and it's prone for disruption. So I am really happy to be here.
Thanks, Teodora. Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Charles Gaudechon. Can call me JC. And actually, that's what happens when you work almost 20 years at EA, which is where I come from. So my background is mostly gaming, FIFA. I worked for 15 years on the FIFA game. My bonus was mostly made by you or your kids spending money in FIFA Ultimate Team. Thanks for that. But basically with football, crypto and gaming, becoming CEO of OneFotball Labs was a no-brainer for me in order to really push and bring that gaming experience over to Web3. But coming in also extremely humble, because there's a lot I need to understand in DeFi and in GameFi in order to make the immersive and gaming experiences that I think this ecosystem needs, or that players in this world needs, whether they know it or not today. So thank you for having me.
Hello everyone. First of all, I'm probably one of they bought a lot of Ultimate Team packages. My name is Pablo Monti. I work as brand ambassador at BingX. I'm from Argentina, so I won't talk about the World Cup because French people.
Thank you, everyone.
Please do.
That's the last thing I will say. And my background is I worked for 15 years at the major sports TV channel in Argentina. Then as a content, head of content. Then we started to work with gaming and esports, and we created a nice internal business inside there. And I moved to Valencia 2 years ago, and I was working for a esports club. Then I joined a Web3 platform that linked esports with Web3 through memberships and things that we probably will tell later. And now I'm working at BingX as brand ambassador, more in charge of the PR, comms, and marketing side. So happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Alex Dreyfus, the CEO of Chilliz and Socials.com. We are the company that was created 5 years ago that tokenize sports team. What does it mean? It means that we are creating fan tokens, which are fungible digital assets for almost 100 teams all over the world, including Barcelona, Valencia, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, Arsenal, Man City, etc., etc. And with a very simple and naive vision that 99% of sports fans are not in the stadium, not in the city, not even in the country of the team they are supporting. And therefore the question for us was, what can we create that both add value for the team, or both that is scalable for the team and has value for a fan? And we created this concept of fan token. It worked decently well for the last 4 or 5 years. We have 2 million users and we are 300 employees all over the world. And we also, even though France lost the World Cup, we actually a sponsor of Argentina and Messi, so I'm okay with it.
Hearing their backgrounds, I think we're going to expect a spicy conversation. Probably you agree with me. I would like now to invite you to address the elephant in the room. What's the current state of the ecosystem when it comes to sports and entertainment in blockchain?
I will start actually. Because you talk about an elephant in the room. I think there is, technology is available. As we know, there are different companies like ours and most of us here on the panel that provide services. The main question is, when will we fit to the market? Is there a market? When that market will be strong enough to sustain all this investment that are being made and that going to continue to be made? I think what's interesting in crypto is the pace of the industry. Everything goes super fast up, but it goes as fast down. And we all suffered, either financially or as an industry stakeholder, of the FTX drama last year. I'll talk about us. From a socials.com perspective, we were not exposed, obviously, to FTX, but it does damage significantly the image of crypto and blockchain in the sports industry. And it is an issue because collectively here, we are companies that are trying to provide mainstream product that are branded a little bit crypto and blockchain in many ways. And therefore, it's way more difficult today than it was 2 years ago when everything was super easy and super hyped. It is more difficult today to get an audience. I'm pretty sure there were more people actually in the conference before, which was about DeFi, than there will be right now about sports. Yet, sports is a much bigger industry-ish than crypto DeFi for sure. And so we are, as mainstream-related product, I think we are tainted by all the bad news that happened for the last 12 months in that space. And in a way, it's great. You know what? It's healthy. All the things are being cleaned, but it's also painful because we have to fight twice more. We have to fight to get the right product. Do we have it or not? And then we also have to fight from a regulatory perspective and from a PR perspective. And that's a lot of work. So, yeah, that's how I will start.
Yep.
So I think from a Dapper Labs perspective, I'd say where we are today is an incredibly important year, and in some ways an even more exciting year, and I'll explain why. 21 was kind of the year when just there was a moment sort of in time where the Web3 community, the crypto native community kind of saw a product with NBA Top Shot that they've never seen before, and obviously that attracted all the attention that it attracted, and all of a sudden within a span of 12 months or so you saw kind of a product to reach over 1 billion in sales. That amount of growth requires an incredibly difficult and sort of like accelerated rush towards supporting this type of growth and supporting this type of product. But where we are today is away from sort of the hype of the growth and more into the stages of really, really trying to dig deep and understand how will a mainstream audience find value in this new technology. And NFT is not a market, NFTs are not an industry, it's an underlying technology that has the potential to really transform how fans engage with what they love, but also how sports IP properties generate commercial value online. And today, you know, sports IP rights holders, compared to the money they can generate with their media rights and sponsorship, etc., compared to what they generate through their online audiences, you can't even compare, which is crazy to think about it. You know, a big football club like a Liverpool that's got over 1 billion of fans around the world, it's an incredibly powerful, enormous IP that simply doesn't know how to monetize its IP online because of the structures of the Web 2. So where we are today at Dapper Labs is very much trying to be creative and think of how we are going to crack these mainstream use cases where we we provide value to the mainstream audiences. And for sure, it's a long journey. For sure, it will be trials and error. But where the industry is today is providing that sort of focus and strategy, which is the only way I think this industry will fulfill its potential to change the internet.
Nothing to add. No, I think you both said the same thing. I think, or I completely agree with what you just said. And OneFotball Labs is in the exact same situation. I think it's a matter of mass adoption. I think that's the next one we need to crack, and a difficult one. Personally, that's why I joined, and that's why I'm now leading OneFotball Labs, because I think that sports and gaming, for that matter, or immersive experiences around that is the way for mass adoption. And today, I think that we barely scratched the surface. That didn't happen yet. I think what's happening in the DeFi world indeed is a bit difficult. And I think the beauty in the DeFi world is that it doesn't need as much the end consumer as much as we do today. So it's interesting because we're getting into a bit of a new era, or when it comes to the end consumer and mass adoption. And to be honest, today we're light years away from being able to get there, even though people make wonderful presentations to raise money or whatever else. If you look at the amount of tech words, technology, like things that needs to be explained to the end consumer for them to not be skeptical about getting in there, there's massive work that is needed here, right? When you see the steps and the friction for someone to get into any type of Web3 experiences, crypto experiences for that matter, there's a lot of work to be done there. And that's what we're focusing on a lot at the moment, and we're going through trial and errors. But again, if you look at the friction of just getting into any of the marketplaces to buying anything, etc., NFTs, collection, DVMs, Dapper, and we both do digital video moments. We own Serie A, Bundesliga, and any other AFA actually. Also pretty happy about Argentina. We had actually a sandbox experience on Argentina at that time, so that was one way to not cry all my tears out. But yeah, that's really the important piece here, and I think we need to also reflect on that. At least I'm trying to advocate now more and more and say, let's please stop with all the terms we're using, which internally makes sense. But honestly, we haven't talked to anyone outside that understand. And when we're trying, because we're at the forefront of talking to clubs, to players, to right now, skepticism is through the roof. And not just FTX, right? It's easy and it's not the scapegoat to say, okay, that the whole thing should shake up the ecosystem, I agree. But just even day to day. Just if you look at a pitch today from a game, from, or any other stuff, and you look at the deck, and please ask yourself the question and say, don't understand. And if I don't, how come anyone as an end consumer can understand and get into this? So to me, that's an important one to crack.
I want to pick what you said about friction, and I believe probably gaming and esports can set the pace, because we are talking about current and, more important, future audience for what is traditional sports. So there's something that we can take from there, even though, as you said, the skepticism in esports is growing also. People is not liking many of the ventures that we see around. And about the question from BingX side, being a crypto exchange, I believe that crypto exchange need to figure out what's the next step. Until now, we see only sponsorships and then sponsorships and sponsorships. And being part of the blockchain world, I believe we all need to figure out how to start relating with sports and entertainment and esports in a different way, not just putting money and gaining some value for sure, but understanding that this is a disruptive technology, and we need to be also disruptive, and probably we are the more conservative within the space in terms of how we relate with the sports and entertainment.
If you, sorry, bouncing off that, if that's okay, and I'll speak for the next 24 minutes anyway. The esports thing is very interesting. Why? Because esports actually created play to earn before it existed. Created play to own, or play and own, which is also a little bit of a trend right now around gaming and, again, immersive experiences. That's super interesting. I think that's a trend we need to stay really close to, because again, in esports, there was already the premise of, playing a game and actually commercially living from it. And that's the super interesting piece today, whether it's, on the games we build, on the products we build. I keep saying games, but I want to say immersive experiences, metaverse, you name it, but kind of an end user, an end consumer experience, entertainment experience. That's going to be extremely interesting, because we know now that we're solving a problem from the end user. And as you all know, a product wins when it's actually solving a problem. And in that case, this is exactly what's happening there, where there are people out there. And if you play any MMOs, go into the World of Warcraft of the world, some of you probably lost your life and money in there. Even if you're 50 years old, I know you played it, so don't try to look away. But the point is, you've got an ecosystem of players that have time but no money, and then you got now people that are 40 plus, 35 plus, 30 plus years old people that spend money straight into the game.
And they don't have games. And they don't have games to spend that money.
Exactly. And today, and actually no, in the ecosystem does not exist. And that's what you mean. So what they do is they go through companies that farm for them, and the whole farming thing, etc. Web3 solves that problem. Very much solves that problem. So these are the interesting, like the dilemmas for users and the way they want to play games. And I'm coming from EA, and we had tons of discussions internally, but the big gaming actors today can't go into it. Or there's a feeling of betrayal for the current community, so they're stuck. We need to meet them on the other end of that tunnel.
And no, just bouncing on GC about. I think there is a difference between gaming and esports. As gaming being the product.
Oh, you want to go there?
Yeah, I want to go there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but just because I do think that blockchain is relevant in gaming. I'm not sure it is in esports. And I say that because we've been working with 7 of the biggest esports team in the world for the last few years, and from a fan engagement perspective, not from the game itself. That's why. From the fan engagement perspective, esports fans are not spenders, because actually they are young, and they are very distributed globally already, but they don't need the same interaction that a football fan of Barca in Japan, in Korea, in Turkey, in Brazil wants to have with. And in our case, we work with 100 plus sports property. We have 88, I think, football teams, 7 esports team, and esports don't really work with us. We don't have the right product, to be fair, but still we can see that the pattern, that what we do is way more relevant in traditional quote-unquote sports than digital sports.
And you're right, because one thing though is esports, what I meant was the basis of esports shows that there's a need for what Web3 brings, as being able to own stuff, being able to get remunerated. No, that's with a French accent that doesn't work. Get paid for the work they do, right? But you're right, because esports remain niche and elite. It's the Olympics of gaming. So you can't say this is mass adoption or something. But what I meant was the structure shows that there's a path towards towards what Web3 can offer, which is people playing. And a lot of the games you see today starts off-chain as a good game, as a good experience, as a good immersive experience. Then they turn on-chain at the right time, because then for people interested, like, oh wait, and then I can, whether it's through an auction house, through trading, through whatever, through farming or grinding, then I can get money from that. So that actually gives a second life, even, pun intended, I guess, a second life to these products. That's the point on esports.
JC, I have a follow-up question. You said earlier to enhance their experience. So now, whether that's esports, gaming, or regular sports, how do you feel that we can enhance the fan experience?
Me?
Any of you?
Yeah, because he's going to jump on it, because that's his job is to enhance the fan experience. No, it's very important, because today, if you, and it's a really good question, because today, if you look at the football ecosystem, it's by far the most fragmented one as a sport, right? It's completely fragmented. It's actually but not in a decentralized way, and not in a good decentralized way, in a bunch of centralized islands from federations and clubs and teams and stuff, and even player agents or federations that make it incredibly hard for us to navigate. That's one. But more importantly, it makes it completely impossible for a football fan to navigate. Because in some ways, what's really interesting is, and that's I think what, and I'm not here to talk about socios, but we have a lot in common on that front. This is where I think what we want to do here, among anything else, is in the current football world, the fan is being left behind. In that industry where today clubs, players, etc., makes a ton of money, and I support PSG, by the way, don't boo, please do not boo, but born and raised in Paris. And the last PSG against Bayern, the last banner that you had in Parc des Princes in the stadium is, we're not Neymar, we don't have enough money to go to your stadium. 3 days ago, Champions League game. This is a reality, and this is completely fucked. Excuse my French. But like, very honestly, like, this is a problem. And 99% of people cannot go to to a stadium, cannot enjoy. The stars of football today are completely impossible to approach, or unless if you run naked in a on a pitch trying to hug him and get security to throw you out. We need to help. We need to find experiences again, so people, and on FIFA to a certain extent, that's what I've done for 15 years, trying to give football, but that's just that's a tiny baby step towards what actually Web3 can do, which is make the user an actor in the football world. So I think, to me, this is key.
So how user experiences, fan engagement experiences can be enhanced in Web3, sort of, in my mind, it comes down to the fact that there is ownership. Web3 allows for ownership, and Web3 also creates sort of a primary and a secondary market. None of these things exist in a Web2 world. And so through ownership, you can, basically express your fandom, for the lack of a better phrase, but the more you own, the more you collect, which is sort of where Dapper Labs is trying to solve a use case for, is the more you are a fan. And if a club or a league it recognizes your fandom because they can see you are the collector who is the most passionate about a certain thing, then sort of those experiences can now make you eligible for a lot more rewards and personal meet and greets and so on and so forth. So we at Dapper Labs, we start with sort of the collectible experience. In the world of sports and in football in particular, collecting trading cards, etc., like that, Panini sticker albums, that feels like a very natural fan experience, right? And in the physical world. How can we take something that we know is real in the physical world and now transport it into the digital world? And so that's sort of our mentality and mindset, is creating these collectible experiences. But because it's Web3 and because this technology allows for a lot more, recognizing you as a fan, what does that mean for you? You've collected all of these moments and you've done this collection, and now so what? What are the rewards that you're going to receive for your loyalty and for your fandom? And I think that's where it becomes particularly interesting.
Jumping in. So funny enough, our baseline is be more than a fan. The first question we should ask is, what is a fan in 2023? Actually, it's a very broad question. It's not the topic of the panel today anyway, but there is no such a thing of a fan. There is a multiple amount of tribes that have a different engagement with the brand, the community, the sports property they want to engage with. Either you're based in Brazil, in Japan, Korea, or in Spain, if you're a fan of Barca, you're gonna engage with the brand completely differently. And so, in our case, we are called socios.com. It actually came from here, more or less, from Barca and Real Madrid, but it came from here, where here in Barcelona, you have a club that is not owned by private entities, but owned by 137,000 socios who are members of this club. That's great, but it's 137,000 people out of 100 million fans or 500 million fans, depends which deck you're gonna read. Now the question is, what can you create to both engage and monetize this fan? And don't take me wrong, monetizing fun is not a bad thing. It means that you bring value to them in exchange of a fee. And what we created 5 years ago, and hopefully we continue to roll out features and services, is giving a new way for a fan somewhere in the world where he can have a relationship with that team. There is more fans in China of Barcelona than in Spain. And yet, what can a Chinese fan do with Barcelona? More or less nothing. Most of the jerseys gonna buy are fake, so it doesn't bring any revenue anyway to the club. He's still a fan. So what can you give? You can have Weibo, the equivalent of Twitter, but that's a one-way relationship. Me as a fan, I'm not recognized. So the advantage actually of the blockchain in that case is two things. We give you ownership of a membership, we call that fan token, and there is scarcity. And because there is ownership and scarcity, it has value. There is a limited amount of that thing, and because there is a limited amount, there is value. And now you are suddenly a fan that has a vested interest. There is this English expression which is you put your money where your mouth is. At the end, fan engagement is that. You put your money, you put your time on something you like. Can be a video game, can be a sports property, football club, whatever. But the thing is, if suddenly you have money in the game, either as a collectible, either as a fan token, or many other features where we can all invent, that matters because I'm part of it. And we are just trying, in our case, we're just trying to help Sanskoki, but to support sports property to try to really capture a new revenue stream that they are not able to do on their own because they don't have the ability to scale it. You know, you cannot ask most of the sports team to have 13 languages, to have payments, compliance, regulatory, product, investment. The only purpose of a football club is to play football. So you need actually third-party companies to invest, and we collectively here invest quite a lot, in order to try to develop features. They don't always work, but at least we are trying, and we can scale them collectively as a network effect. And the reason I talk about a network effect is because one thing that is usually understated is a fan is not a fan of one team and one sport, not anymore. If you live in Barca, sure, you're a Barca fan. But when you live in Korea, you like Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, you like a bit Man City or Arsenal, and you like as well Formula One and UFC. So the more you can aggregate this IP, the more you can aggregate this brand on the same platform, the same blockchain, the same ecosystem, the more you can actually increase the revenue per IP, per teams, and the more you can bring value to the fans as well. We're actually starting to do cross-selling or cross-activation between some NBA teams and European soccer teams, football teams. And that's interesting. So the growth of football, let's talk about football, is international. But this international growth, I believe, is going to be mainly driven by tech innovation.
I like this question because they are responsible for solving this, not me. But what I feel is in traditional sports, historically, the best fan loyalty that you have is, as you mentioned, the word experience. I mean, the experience. The people attending the stadium, hospitality if they can afford it or they got the ticket, whatever. But what I believe it needs to be solved is how we deliver that experience outside the stadium. You know, how, for example, what you said, one guy in Korea, how we create such an experience as being in the stadium for that person. I mean, Web3 has that potential through metaverse, through memberships. You will develop that, not me. But for sure, I believe that's the next step. How we bring that experience, that fan loyalty, that taking care of the fan outside the stadium.
He used the M word from metaverse. So, to your point, experience is the key, but the problem is experience is not scalable. I'll give you an example. At Socios, we are giving away this year 17,000 VIP tickets all over the world. 17,000. We actually have a dedicated team that is focused on that. But again, in Camp Nou here, you have 99,000 seats, I believe, and there is a demand for, I don't know, 100,000 for a few matches probably. So you do need, and I don't have the answer to that, but you do need to build new, new experiences. Is it metaverse? I don't know what is a metaverse anyway, but definitely there are digital initiatives that needs to be scaled to actually allow users to feel part of it. And I don't have the answer to that.
I was about to ask a follow-up question. You said different initiatives. So what do you hope will be achieved sooner rather than later when it comes to sports and entertainment related to Web3? How can we enhance these experiences?
So actually, that's great if I may. I just want to say something there, and then it will be linked to that. But I think what we're discussing here also is we need to move. That's very important to me, from collect to utility. Because a lot of what's coming back from what we're all saying here is utility. I think I've seen a lot of experiences, the M word or others, which whether are built on FOMO, on speculation, on an investment. A lot of the success when I came in, and I'm like, damn, these guys did a lot of money. Then I looked at it, they had an experience, and I tried to understand where the money was coming from. It's not end consumer either. It's just investment. And these guys didn't need really to think utility for the end user. This is extremely important, or not actually, it's a make or break on utilities that we can bring. Since we're in a very similar world, this weekend we're bringing 10 people to VIP, in Serie A, to VIP treatment in AC Milan Stadium, etc., etc. So same idea. Why? Because we think that these people will never be able to go there. And when I meet actually clubs, and I say, please stop inviting your friends over to your VIP rooms and start inviting fans. Stop inviting people to make deals with suits at the top of the VIP rooms in the stadium. Bring fans that actually have the shirt of your team. I think it's part of exactly what we're trying to do. This is utility. Just to stop there.
The question you asked is which use cases will become adopted or developed earlier than others. I think the way I'd look at that, answer that question is, I actually believe that it's in the hands of the innovators and the developers that will come up with use cases that big companies will struggle to come up with. And this is where I do want to talk a bit about composability in Web3, because it's Web3, it's not Web2. What's different about Web3? The fact that in Web3, any application is in its own right an API, and you can build on top of this application, and you can add layers and layers and layers of utility use cases, innovation, ideas. Like that is an exponential power to drive innovation and come up with the use cases that will hit the hearts of the fans. So for sure, sort of this idea of like, I've spent my money on my fan tokens and what am I getting in return? And perhaps you have a fairly clear answer to that, but like I'm collecting sort of my digital moments from all these football properties. What is it that I get in return? And we are all coming up with ideas and experimentations, but we're still not at a stage where you can lay out a membership program that is clear-cut to the users from the early days of that collection, and we're all working towards that. But as much as we will continue to try to figure it out and test a few things, I strongly believe, like as the internet, the 20 years of history in the internet has really shown us, it's these developers, the innovators sitting somewhere in a room with just a lot of ideas, that Web3 allows them to actually make them happen, to build. So in Dapper Labs, one of the things we're really interested in looking into today is how we start to create composability on our sports properties that have already received adoption, and that's where we are looking at.
One thing I realized actually is I need to drop the name of my company a lot more in these
I thought the same.
Right?
I thought the same.
I'm like,
I'm gonna do it.
You do a great job.
Socials.com. So just because we have almost left than a minute, but yeah, I think technology is about enhancing. To the point of Bianca on this, it's about bringing new usage rather than to replace something that exists. In sports, people who go to a stadium, tickets, it works. You go, you get your tickets, it works. Do you need to have an NFT? Probably for security reason, but yet you're solving a problem, but you're not increasing neither the margin or you're not increasing the number of people who's going to have access to that. So I think technology in our case is going to be about bringing these brands outside of their comfort zone or outside of the stadium. And to the point of Web3, I'm not ashamed, especially because I've been in the internet space since 1996, so it's a long time ago, to say that we are more a Web 2.5 company than a Web 3.0. Yet, having said so, we've announced actually last week that we're launching our new chain, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to pitch it. But the point is, yes, there will be more and more developers, startups, initiative that's going to be able to use fan tokens. Till now, we were the main utility provider. We were the exclusivity provider of the fan tokens. That's great. That's how we started, and that's how we grew. But now we're going to give access to anyone in the room if they want to develop and provide value. That if you own a Barca token and you are a startup and you're going to build a platform where I can go to the McDonald's or somewhere else and I get 10% discount because I own that fan token, that makes sense. It doesn't mean that we, as a company, we have to develop it, but we're going to give access to the tools for anyone to launch these kind of things. But, and it's a big but in sports, there is an IP play here that is an issue. You're working with brands that are 100 years old. You cannot play the same than Bored Apes or any other crypto traditional brands. And that's one of the things people forget.
Very good.
I cannot launch anything I want with the brand Barca because I have a Barcelona token or because I can offer a service on top of it. And that's the limitation of the Web3 in sports.
That's a very good point, yeah.
Short, since time's up, and you said what I was going to say, and that's always tough. BingX, my brand, so. I believe the next thing is still to come, and probably they need to seduce two heads, the user and the authorities or the responsibles of the IPs. As you said, invite fans to the hospitality, not brands or not your partners. Once we get something that people understand is useful, and you are allowed to do what you want to do from the responsibles of the IPs, maybe we can get that next big thing.
The fan is the glue in that ecosystem. Not anyone else, but in the football ecosystem, the fan is the glue. If we bring utility to that fan, actually we even have a chance. Web3 can actually play a massive role into, for football specifically, actually bring all these actors much closer to each other. OneFotball Labs.
Unfortunately, time is up, so before we get kicked out, I would like to invite you all to give a big round of applause to our panelists.